addressing the Davos participants there, as well being questioned by 5 CEOs. Nathan Dean is Bloomberg Intelligence Senior Policy Analyst. All right, Nathan, what do you think his goal is, and what do you think the audience's goal is here?
Yeah, so, I think the audience's goal here is to try and find out, are we going to get a confrontational President Trump or a negotiation President Trump when it comes to things like tariffs and America first? President Trump is going into this speech with essentially to lay the land of his vision. And it's important for investors to remember is that the power of the presidency is more powerful when it comes to these national security, trade, and tariff and geopolitical arguments, and presidents in their second term generally spend more time focused on outside the United States than within it. So what I'm hearing for, or what I'm expecting from this speech, what I want to hear is this language over tariffs. I think it's going to certainly come up, but is he going to signal that I'm going to confront, meaning am I putting in a tariff on February 1st? Or is he going to use language like, oh yeah, this is definitely coming, but I'm just making this up. But I think the Wall Street folks and the folks over in Davos really want to hear that negotiation Trump, because it signals that threats aren't immediate, and obviously it's always subject to a negotiation and may never actually take place.
Is this a forum for him to say opine at all on Ukraine? Do you think?
Yeah, I certainly think the Davos folks want to hear this. And, from us on our side and the investing side, we saw President Trump put out his statement on Truth Social to President Putin saying, end this war now. And if you don't, then I'm going to slap you with sanctions and tariffs and so forth. Now, I think a lot of folks are anticipating that President Trump will negotiate with President Putin. If you remember, before the inauguration, he even said that they were going to try and set up a time for them to talk about this. But I think you want to see what the steps are and whether or not President Trump will try and confront President Putin, or is he going to signal that we're going to talk about it. From the sanctions standpoint, it's important to remember for those of us that if it's a congressional sanction, President Trump really doesn't have the ability to go back and overturn that. You need to go back to Congress. If it's presidential sanction, that's a little bit different, but there is a law in place that would require President Trump to notify Congress before doing that. Where I'm going with this is that if there's any bout of sanctions being lifted, we should get notice well in advance of it happening.
You said, what, confrontational or negotiator? Was that the term you used?
Exactly. Whether or not President Trump is going to come out and say, look, these tariffs are coming February 1st, or is he coming out and saying, well, I was thinking about it, but, maybe we're going to do it next week. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
He says that a lot.
No, I'm definitely into it. I'm just stealing it from you. That's why I needed to make sure it was accurate as I wrote it down. I guess my other question is, when we're booking out our 3 p.m. show, for example, I'll give you a little glimpse behind how the sausage is made. We're like, well, we got to do politics. And we're like, well, what's President Trump doing today? It's like, oh, well, he's talking at 11. What else is he going to do? We don't know, but we know there's going to be news. So what else can we expect in the next 5 hours?
Well, I think there's a lot of talk about, obviously, this, but then we're also trying to figure out what's going on with the confirmation hearings back home. I mean, Senator Rubio is now Secretary of State Rubio, but we still need Scott Bessent to be the next Secretary of the Treasury. We need to get that confirmation in place. And because, even though I just said the presidents tend to spend more of their time in the second term outside the United States than within it, we still have a lot of stuff that's happening here at home. Not only do we have this tariff argument, but we also have congressional leadership going to the White House to meet with President Trump on this idea of this tax extension bill, this $4.6 trillion. Representative Lawler was there just yesterday talking about the SALT conference, or the SALT deduction, and even said, I'm not going to support a bill unless it has some type of SALT relief. So President Trump's giving this speech to abroad, and he toyed with the idea of even going there, but as soon as that speech is over, his attention is going to turn back to Congress. And just yesterday, he said that he was inkling towards meeting every single member of the Republican caucus at the House of Representatives, AKA I took that to be, I know I need every single vote, so I'm going to look each person in the eye and say, are you going to derail my agenda, or are you going to help me on this? President Trump's certainly getting a lot more involved in the House of Representatives than other presidents have.
All right, Nathan, great stuff. We always love checking in with you to get the update. I think we're going to be doing this a lot more over the next 4 years than maybe we did over the last 4 years. Nathan Dean, Senior Policy Analyst at Bloomberg Intelligence. He is our go-to voice on what is happening in the halls of Congress and how it impacts markets. He joins us from Washington, D.C.